What's up, everybody? Metal Biker Dude coming back at you here again. And you guys seem to really like the story of Dirty, and you wanted me to share some more stories with you. So I'm going to do one. This is, we'll call this one Brody's KCs. Now, when I was about 19 years old, me and a buddy of mine, we moved to West Palm Beach, Florida. And it was stupid. We had no business moving down there. We knew one person. We stayed with them for probably about 2 weeks. No, about a week, actually. And then we ended up having to stay in a campground for a couple weeks until we found an apartment to live in. And so we get an apartment. And we started hanging out. Now, you can't really go to West Palm Beach. You have to go to an area called Lake Worth Beach. West Palm Beach is all privatized. You got Rush Limbaugh down there and the Kennedys, and all these people own all of these beachside houses. And so we would hang out at West Palm Beach, and it was pretty cool, though. You would drive your cars, and they had really cool cars up there, driving around, especially at night. And then during the day, you'd go down, hang out on the beach, and it was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. I was driving a beer truck down there. I had the time of my life, man. So anyway, this one day, we're probably there for about 2 months. And me and my buddy, we're sitting there on the beach, and these two chicks come by, pretty smoking. They're in bikinis and good-looking chicks. And so we start rapping with them, and they, after about a half hour of talking, they invite us to this party. And so we're like, dope, man. We'll go down there, And so now this party. No, we lived almost at the corner of Okeechobee and Military Trail, which is a pretty major intersection. So we were kind of in the thick of everything. Well, this party is out. It's out about, I don't know, say at least 10 miles out into the country. And believe it or not, there is some country swampland in Florida, even by West Palm Beach. Not far from the Gators, So anyway, it's a Friday night, and we start heading out to this party. Now, keep in mind, we don't have cell phones back then, and we're rapping on the phone with these chicks, and they're like, "Don't forget to come out," blah 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 blah. So we're like, "Right, we're coming, we're down." So we get out to this party, and now you pull in. Now it's nothing but wooded area. All right, and then there's a big pond. And on one side of the pond, there's probably about, probably 300 people. And we didn't know this, but apparently they do this all the time. And then we're on the other side of the pond, and there's only about a dozen of us there, including these two chicks. And we brought some beer, and everybody had coolers of beer, and, smoking a little something, and we're rapping with these chicks, and all of a sudden there's this, on the other side of the pond, there's this truck there, and this truck has a series of 5 KC lights, those round floodlights that they put on pickup trucks, especially redneck pickup trucks. So one of the chicks that we're with, she says, "Shut those fucking lights off." And because they lit them up, and they're bouncing across the pond, and it was pretty bright. Because this pond wasn't, enormous by any stretch. It was probably about the size of a football field. And not only were the lights pointing right at us, but they're bouncing off the water and everything else. And she's just screaming, "Shut those fucking lights off. Shut those fucking lights off." And we didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, Now, my buddy had a white 78 Firebird. I'm trying to give you as much detail as I can. And he had this white 78 Firebird, had a sunroof in it, and that was the shit back then. So we're standing there now. Me and my buddy, we're standing on the passenger side, right by the passenger door, and the two chicks are standing in front of us. And the one chick that was yelling, she finally, shut her fucking mouth. And, we didn't really care because we're just trying to hit it, and we're planning on trying to get him back to come back to our apartment. So we're standing there talking to them, and they're facing us as we're leaning up against the car. And all of a sudden, these people start coming from the other side of the pond. And there's I don't know, I'd say probably 12 to 15 guys that were walking in a group, almost militant-like and very concentrated in their walk. In other words, they're almost walking on top of each other. They're packed in that tightly. And so the one dude walks up and he looks right at my buddy. And he says, and I'm going to do my best impression of this guy. He says, "Who the fuck's talking about Brody's KCs?" And my buddy looks at me and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," because we didn't want to throw the girl under the bus, you know what I mean? He said, "I said, who the fuck is talking about Brody's KCs?" And finally, I'm like, you know what? We don't want no fucking problems here. We just came here to party and this and that. He said, "Was I talking to you, boy?" And I said, "Well, you're about one more boy from getting your ass whooped." And my buddy's like, "Come on, man, let's just fucking get out of here." He's like, "I want the answer to the question that I asked. Who the fuck was talking about Brody's KCs?" Well, there's this other dude standing there. We don't know this dude. And he points at the girl and he says, "That was her." He goes, "Well, whose bitch is this?" And all of a sudden, once he asked this, it seemed like everybody else that was on that side of the pond just starts surrounding us. Now, by this point, and I'm not exaggerating, there were at least 100 people surrounding this little white Firebird, and everybody else just backed out of the picture, and including the two chicks. And I heard somebody say to one of those chicks, "Sheila and Becky, stand back over there." Well, Sheila and Becky are the two chicks that we met at the beach. So it really didn't dawn on us at that moment, at that specific moment. But eventually we started realizing that Sheila and Becky were friends with all of these people on the other side of the pond. So, yeah, we got hoodwinked. So the guy that kept asking the question, "Who the fuck is talking about Brody's KCs?" he comes stepping up, and he's about 2 feet away from me. And my buddy's getting really nervous. Now, my buddy is one of these people that loves to talk shit, and then he always wanted me to finish the job for him. And the reason I'm telling you that is because maybe in the future I got another story for you about this guy. Now, when I say buddy, I ain't spoke to this guy in 20 years, and I have no plans on speaking to him. But the guy that was asking the question about Brody's KCs and about 6 other guys, they come up real close to us. Now, I know what's about to go down. I know for a fact that somebody's going to start swinging here. Now, we're severely outnumbered, at least 100 people surrounding us. And when I say surrounding us, I mean the entire car. So they're 20 people deep all the way around the car. And I realized we're going to have one hell of a time getting out of this shit. So I thought, well, and I've always had this motto ever since the days of Dirty, right? I've always had this motto: I might get my ass whooped, but you ain't getting it for free. All right? Nobody in this world is getting it from me for free. So I said, fuck it. And I swung on this dude, and I connected right on his fucking nose. Hit him dead in his shit. Split his fucking nose open. He's leaking everywhere. And all hell fucking breaks loose. So my buddy, he goes around the front of the car, and he's trying to come back to get inside the door. I reach for my door handle, and it's one of those kind that you lift up on. I reach on my door handle and realize, oh shit, this door's locked. It's like, fuck, why would he lock the door? To this day, I can't figure out why the fuck he locked that door. So I realize now the only way for me to get into this car is to help him get into the car on the driver's side. So I make my way around, and just as I get to the front of the car, there's this dude that I swear to God looked like he was the size of the Incredible Hulk. He wasn't built like him, but he was enormous. This dude had to have been 7 foot tall, 400 pounds. He was a fucking mountain. And I'll never forget. He swings at me, and I duck just underneath it. And as I'm making my way around, I remember him saying, "Don't you fucking duck on me, boy." So now people are closed in now. They're completely closed in on the car. So I dove across the front of the car and slid across. I fell down on the ground. My buddy's trying to get the door open, and he can't get the fucking door open. And I'm taking shots from every angle possible. They're hitting me in my fucking ear. My ear was bleeding. They're hitting me in my fucking ear. They're hitting me in my face. They're hitting me in my ribs and my back and my front and kicking me in the fucking sack. Everything you could imagine. But I have to ignore it all because I know the only way for us to get out of this alive, and I literally mean alive, think about this. There's a fucking pond right there. These two chicks clearly drew us out there for the sole purpose of taking us out. We know this by this point. So I finally make my way up because I'm on the ground and, everybody's taking shots at me. I make my way up, and finally I get because they're pushing on the door, right? I make my fingers into the door just enough so I can start prying it back. Now, I got a bunch of people pushing on it to keep it shut. But between me and my buddy, we finally got that door open. Now, I'll tell you how much force was being done. We actually bent the door. Okay? Now, this is a 78 Firebird. They made them pretty stout back then, So you think about that. So finally, we get the door open. I dove into the car. Now, if you don't know what a 78 Firebird is, Google it. Look it up. It's a very, very tiny car. So my big ass, I'm 6'3". I dove into this car. They shut the door back on him before my buddy could get in. So then now it's a hand crank window. I crank the window down, and I'm pulling on my buddy to get him into the car. He's trying to get in. They're pulling back on his feet. So I finally get him into the car. We get the door shut. Somehow we get the window up, and they're throwing beer cans and bottles and everything else at the fucking car. Beer's shattering all over the place. And some guy reaches in, and here comes Dirty again, right? some guy reaches in to the through the sunroof, and I grab his hand, and I'm biting on his arm. And I mean, I'm biting chunks out of this guy's arm. And he's screaming, man. And finally, my buddy gets the car started. By the way, it didn't want to start right away. It took probably 10 seconds before that thing finally fired over. He gets it started, and we take off. We just take off like a bat out of hell. Well, here's the problem. There's only one way in, and we didn't remember how we got in there because it's deep in the woods, as I told you. I mean, it's deep. I mean, we're a quarter mile deep into these woods. And so we're driving around, can't find our way out of this fucking thing. And then finally we make our way back to this clearing because we're running over tree stumps. Destroyed my buddy's car, fucking destroyed it. But we know this is our only way out alive. So we finally make our way to this clearing, and all of a sudden we get to this clearing, and here they all come back again, man. And they're throwing everything, fucking glass flying everywhere, windows breaking, everything else. And finally we make our way home. And, well, unfortunately, we told these chicks where we lived when we were on the beach. We gave them our address. So we go home, and lo and behold, an hour later, there's about 50 people at our apartment door. Now, we lived in a triplex. It was like an L shape, and so it was 3 apartments. And we lived in the back one, and they're all standing back there, and they're knocking on the door. We just want to apologize to you. So my buddy called the cops. The cops cleared him out. That was the end of that. But that's the story of Brody's KCs. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Metal Biker Dude, peace.